now being recorded.
Now is it full screen?
Yeah, it's full screen, sir. Perfect.
Yep. Okay.
Initially, we were expecting you this time you could come to Jaipur because the things are going to be better than before.
See, I actually I had 3 invitations in Jaipur today.
Okay.
So now the commitment for you is a year back. So I cannot say no to you. So I said no to other two. So I thought of staying at my home and doing it rather than coming to Jaipur. Otherwise, they will catch me. You are already here and you are not coming to our conference.
Thank you so much, sir. Again, we are inviting you for 2022.
Yeah.
And
Thank you.
hopefully with family at Shimla.
Yeah, I am looking forward to that. I don't know about my family because my sons are busy with their own work. My wife has her own plans, but definitely I am looking forward to a physical one right now. There's too much of online.
Online. That's why, sir, we decided to come out of the home and we visited to Jaipur and we plan to have it hybrid mode.
Yeah. I think that this is a better thing because in hybrid mode you can accommodate more people in both ways. So if you open this channel of hybrid thing, then online people can from abroad also people can join. That is a good thing.
Exactly. Then even the financially model would be better.
Yeah, financial as well as administrative also. If a lot of people are not traveling from different countries and they are able to join online, then all these administrative visa related activities, they are staying and all these things can be avoided. And many people can join in the month of December because many people avoid coming to India because of the Christmas and all. They have their own festivals. So that can be taken care of.
But from from the last 7 months we are getting a mail from the Ministry of External Affairs that they are asking the information of the authors who are submitting their papers, even in the hybrid mode or in the online mode. They are asking the information of the authors because of certain security issues.
Correct.
Research and these are related to the security issues.
Yeah, I know. See, anything in cyberspace calls for a great amount of security. That is also a big challenge to deal with. Think we can start in a minute or so?
Definitely within a minute we will start. At 12:08 we will start, sir.
Yep.
May I request to the participants kindly mute your. Shall we, sir?
Yeah, we can start.
Okay, let me give some time. Our today's first keynote by Mr. Aninda Bose, who is executive editor at Springer Nature Group, New Delhi. Mr. Aninda Bose is presently working as executive editor with Springer Nature. Mr. Bose is a part of global acquisition team at Springer Nature and responsible for acquisition of scientific content across the globe. He is responsible for acquisition of content in interdisciplinary applied sciences. He has more than 26 years of industrial experience in marketing and different fields of publishing. Mr. Bose has completed Masters in Organic Chemistry from Delhi University and Masters in Marketing Research from Symbiosis Institute of Management Studies, Pune. Mr. Bose has delivered more than 160 invited talks on scientific writing and publishing ethics in reputed universities, international conferences, and author workshops. He has published books for secondary level in chemistry and a member of American Chemical Society, USA. Now, may I request Mr. Aninda Bose to deliver talk, and again thankful to you for sparing your valuable time for this conference.
Thank you,
Please.
thank you, Tarun. Good morning to everyone. It's a pleasure to start this SOCTA 2021 with my talk, and we had a fantastic inaugural session. So I hope you have enjoyed that inaugural thing also. Now, without any further delay, I would straight away go to my presentation. And I know it's a difficult period for everyone. I don't know how many of you are actually able to join the conference in a physical mode, and this is being a hybrid mode. Most of the authors will be online, and this gives an opportunity to meet more people, definitely. But at the same time, what I felt when this whole thing was moved to online, all these conferences and all, I was thinking that all the authors of the papers will be able to join the conference. But unfortunately, that is not happening. I am very demoralized to see that only the presenters who are there, they only come to the conference. But this is an opportunity for all the authors in a way, because if it is online, then you can just log in and you can take the advantage of networking, which is the primary objective of any conference. Talks are always there, for networking purposes, but your internal networking is very important so that you can communicate with each other. And it is also important that you hear each other in the sessions, because conference organizers, they very meticulously work out these tracks and all, so that you can go and you can enjoy each and every session in a way that you coordinate and you also collaborate with people. That is the best thing which is actually coming out of conference. Unfortunately, in last year, in 2020, networking was very poor because people were not aware of this particular mode. But in 2021, most of the organizers are able to do their work in a much better way. So we think that you are able to communicate with each other and network with each other. So I will just go to my presentation and straight away share the thing. I hope you can see the presentation right now, correct?
Yes, sir, correct.
Okay. Now, see, I represent Springer Nature, and in Springer Nature, I work for Interdisciplinary Applied Sciences Books team. And my presentation is also going to be about the elements of book publishing. We will touch upon many areas. I will just I will tell you in a bit what exactly we are going to deal and what all slides you will be seeing in the next 1 hour or so. So, a little about the company. I work for Springer Nature, and I am here for last 10 years or so. And, this is an organization which started in 1842. You can see the picture of the person, Julius Springer. He is the person who started this whole company in a small bookstore in Berlin. And then ultimately, this has grew to this level where we have more than 10,000 plus colleagues are operating from 50 different countries, we are little late movers because many publishers have already started coming out of their base area, core area, but we came late. We actually ventured out in 1924. After the First World War, we opened another office in Vienna. The dynamics of Europe was very different at that time. In 1946, after the Second World War, our biggest office was opened in Heidelberg, which is our, again, editorial head office also. And in 2015, the name of the organization changed to Springer Nature, because Macmillan Science and Education became a part of Springer also, and there is a joint collaboration. So for last 6 years, the company name has been changed from Springer to Springer Nature. I hope you all know this. Nature is also a very, very popular magazine. Mostly it was in biological and medical sciences, but now we have many different journals in Nature also. Springer Nature, if you look at the portfolio of Springer Nature, we work in academic book publishing, mostly scholarly book publishing, books published by researchers, So one of the largest academic book publisher we are, and especially when we started in the first 100 odd years, people used to recognize Springer as only a book publisher. We were very less in the field of journals at that time, but right now we have almost 3,500 journals in our kitty also. We publish books all across research areas. We started with mathematics and engineering, then we moved to all fields of science and technology, to medicine. And in last 30 years or so, we have done a lot of work in humanities, social sciences, management and all. We publish around 13,000 new books each year. That is a very, very big number, far ahead of other publishers. We have more than 3 lakh books available to readers on our content platform, which is a digital platform. We are one of the pioneers in this area for a digital availability of content. We started in 1995 with the journals, and 2005 onwards, that is almost 16 years, we published all the books in digital format first, and then only it comes to print format, which is on print on demand. I can tell you in last 2 years, this has definitely helped us, because whatever availability of content was there was only in digital form. Printing was almost closed. We were not able to reach our retailers through, so print mode was not available at all because of pandemic. Anything which was available was digital, and this digital transformation of Springer in last 30 years or so has really, really helped us to reach our readers. In fact, you won't believe the numbers are so high that in 2020, in first 6 months or so, we reached a download of 1 billion. You know, that was a staggering number, which we were not even thinking of to start with. So we are basically, the numbers have really increased, not only in downloads but also in submissions, and we have published many extra books and journal articles in 2020 and 2021, many articles pertaining to COVID area. A lot of work has been done in AI, which are basically related to COVID. So we have a lot of books available. But unfortunately, what we have seen, many proposals are coming, but many people, they don't know how to send their proposals, how to approach a publisher, what all things are needed to create a proposal. So there are a lot of quality issues which are involved. So I thought, let me talk about different elements over here. First, we will talk about steps of book publishing, what all steps are involved. Then we will see what are the types of books. This is also very important for you to know what all academic types of books are available, so that you can contribute in that. Then we will touch upon some ethical issues, which is very close to my heart, because I feel that this is one of the most best community for ethics, and research ethics is very, very important. And finally, the last section will talk about author section services and publishing tools. The tools which are available, some are paid, some are free, but mostly we will talk about free tools which are available, which you can make use of when you are basically doing your research activities. So to start with the first section, steps of book publishing. There are 5 steps involved in book publishing. So let's start with the first one. First one is the first thing which comes to your mind. That is an idea. Everything starts with an idea. That is why we always keep idea symbol as a glowing bulb. The reason is, idea flashes and then it goes away. It doesn't remain with you. So it is something which comes and stays there for a while, and then immediately another idea comes to your mind. So if you have a very good idea, write it down. Because if you are getting an idea today, it's not necessarily that idea will remain with you for the next 2 days. So it is better to jot it down on a paper, what exactly you are getting an idea about. So if you have a very good idea about content writing, then you can create something for the future readers. Now, if you have a unique idea, that actually fills the gap in current literature. Now, when I talk about literature, it is very important for you to understand then the topic in which you are doing a research, or the topic in which you want to write, there is a huge background or current literature is available. Now, if I give an example of artificial intelligence, now you see in last 10 to 15 years, everyone is talking about AI. It started with computer science and mathematics area, and then it is moved to all the areas, all subject areas. People are talking about artificial intelligence. Why are they talking about artificial intelligence so much in last 10 years? Because availability of data is abundance. The data is available and people can have access to data and they can work on these data. But if you look at artificial intelligence, it started in 1960s. So if you look at the literature of artificial intelligence, it is like 60 plus years. But in these 60 plus years, definitely there will be some gaps, some lacunae, where you can actually fill those gaps with your own research. So if you have some unique idea, then obviously you can create a book or a content which is going to fill the gap in current literature. The second step is very important. That is actually formulation or formalization of your idea into a proposal. Now, you can talk about your idea, but you cannot, show your idea to people. So for showing your idea to people, you need to create a proposal. Now, what all things are needed for creating a proposal? The first important thing is your biodata and list of publications. Why there is a list of publications to start with? Because when you write a book, you should have some publications already there in conference proceedings or in journals. People start writing in conference proceedings and journals before they venture out and start writing a book. So you must have a list of publications where you have published it. Then you have synopsis of the book. Synopsis of the book is actually about the book. About the book means what exactly you are going to talk in that book and how it is beneficial for the readers. What are the USPs of your book, unique selling points of your book? Now, mostly people, what they do here, they commit a mistake when they create a proposal. They write about the book, but they actually don't write about the book. They write about the subject. They write 3 pages about the subject, but they are not actually writing what exactly the book has in it. So it is important for you to understand that you may not write 3 pages. You can only put 150 to 200 words, but talk about your book, what exactly the content of your book and how it is beneficial for the readers. Third thing is table of contents. Table of contents is basically the structure of your book. That means what exactly you are going to put in a structured form, like the chapter or the topics or the headings. So detailed table of contents gives a very good idea to the reviewers or evaluators or even to the publishers what exactly you have in the book and what is your idea, how you are going to transform it into a content. Then you have to give some sample chapters also. Now, sample chapters, when you are submitting a sample chapter, the chapter should be at least 80% ready. You should not draft a chapter just randomly and say that, okay, it was just 30% ready. It is not, the correct chapter for the book and all, I will revise it later. No, it is not the case. When you are sending a sample chapter of your book, that means you should be actually ready with at least 80% of the chapter in the correct form and submit it to the publisher. So your idea transformed into a proposal. Now the third stage, when you are sending that proposal to the publisher. As a publisher, when I am sitting on my desk, I get the proposal and I will see, okay, all these 4 things which are mentioned in the second step, they are there or not. So I have a checklist. I will check, okay, all these things are there. So first evaluation of the proposal is done by the publishing editor who sits with the publisher. Then we send the book or the proposal to the peer review and comment. But peer reviewing is basically where a subject expert in your area, maybe the peer you have, they will check your book and they will give their, comments about the proposal. Once we receive the comments, we share the comments with you. And if it is accepted, then we sign a contract. When the contract is signed, you receive an author package from us. Author package is nothing but the templates and different kind of forms like copyright form, permission form, which you can make use of for creating the manuscript. So from evaluation of the proposal to the formation of the manuscript is the third stage. Once the manuscript is ready and as per the contract you have with the publisher, manuscript gets submitted to the publisher. So you submit your manuscript to the publisher. Manuscripts nowadays are always in soft form or a soft copy, that is either doc or in LaTeX form. Usually the physicists and mathematicians, they write in LaTeX form. So from manuscript to the soft copy. Now, when we receive this soft copy at our end, we immediately send it for first analysis of the soft copy. There are a couple of things we do initially, like we check the plagiarism in case there is any similarity in your work. Then we check the ethical aspects, the figures which you have used, the tables which you have used, either the images which you have used, are they correct? And there is a cursory glance on the content which you have written. That means people somewhere will randomly they will read the chapters or they will read some text of your work so that they get to know, okay, the language of your paper is okay. Once this stage is over, we send your work or your manuscript to the production team where they create an XML file. Now this is XML file, then it gets transformed into different formats in which we publish. because we publish in print as well as digital form together. So your manuscript getting transformed into a book which will be taken to the market. So fifth stage is basically how we disseminate your content. Now, dissemination is very, very important because the objective of the author is to get the work to different readers. If your work is not going to your correct readership, then the work will not be appreciated, it will never be cited, and it will be never be recognized. So it is very important that the work gets proper recognition. That is why we have different channels for that. Like first thing you can see over here on my slide is Springer.com. Springer.com is the website where there is a dedicated homepage of the book. Whatever book you write with us, we have a dedicated homepage of that book. We have certain sales information over there, title, ISBN, name of authors, about the book, and all these details, to start with. It's a very initial stage. When the book is already in production, we create this page so that people get to know about your book. When the book is published, then the content is available on a different site, which is called Springer Link. Like it's a content platform. And from content platform, people can subscribe or people can download your work. Then we have distribution channels also. That is third parties. We have Amazon, we have iTunes, Flipkart, Barnes and Nobles. There are many organizations which are working with us, and the content is also available on their website. That means information is also available on their website and distribution is done through them. Then we have a very strong team, which is an author support team, which are actually working behind the curtain at the back end. They create the covers, they create the flyers, and they create newsletters, which are very important. These newsletters we usually distribute among your community. We send it to different conferences, workshops, and all, where people get to know about your book. So it is the final stage where authors are getting recognition through these kind of pamphlets and newsletters, where readers are getting to know about the book. So there are 5 stages involved in the steps over for a book publishing. First is idea, which comes to your mind. Second is formalization or creation of the proposal. Third is basically creation of the manuscript, analysis. Finally, creation of the manuscript, submission of the manuscript to the formation of the book, and finally, dissemination of your content. Second section is basically talking about types of books. Types of books is again very important for you to know. Until and unless you know different type of scholarly books or academic books, you will not be able to write them. The first type of book is a monograph. It's a scholarly book or a treatise on a single subject, usually a very niche topic on a particular broad area. So it is an authored book. Authored book means there can be a single author or can be a multiple authors also. Monographs, usually we have 1 or 2 authors, but sometimes there are certain monographs we have at least 4 to 5 authors also, but that's a very rare case. Usually we have 2 to 3 authors, not more than that. So monograph is a scholarly book. That is the most important scholarly book. Second type of book is called edited volumes. Now there is a difference between monograph and edited volumes. As I said, monographs are basically authored books. Edited volumes are contributed volumes. That means some people who are basically conceptualizing the a proposal on the basis of some theme. These are organized very thematically, these books. Then they go out and invite contributors in their domain. So in their own network, they write to people and they get contribution from them as book chapters. Now, why I am elaborating over here, the reason is nowadays, there is a misconception about edited volumes. People think, it is easy to write edited volumes and they create call for chapters. These call for chapters are available on WhatsApp, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and all different places, and they are collecting chapters from people. But this is not the way to write an edited volume. And it is also important for you to know, if you are a young scholar or you are a young faculty, then try to write a monograph first rather than an edited volume. Because for edited volume, you need certain amount of experience, or your credibility should be at least with 10 years of experience in your work, so that you can actually go and edit someone else's work. As an editor, you are supposed to do that. Editors are not supposed to contribute their chapters in the book. Editors are supposed to write an introduction chapter of the book and the final conclusion chapter of the book, and in between there will be contributions from different authors, which those are called contributors. So there is a huge difference between monograph. Monographs can be written by young scholars, young faculties. Edited books are actually for senior people, so leave it to them. You try to write research monographs. Third type is proceedings. Proceedings, you all know, like a conference which we are happening right now, SOCTA. So the organizers, they go out, they send call for papers, and on call for papers, you submit certain papers. This is a collection of academic papers. Now these papers, they are submitted, they get evaluated. After evaluation, you get certain, acceptance. And after the acceptance, you have to come to the conference and you have to present. So this collection of work which is there, which gets presented also, this is basically published in the form of proceedings. Then we have another type of book which is called professional book. Professional books are basically written by people who are in the industry or in with a commerce background, or they work in corporates, R&D of different organizations, and they write books usually in the form of manual, guide, data compendium and all. But these books are very, very helpful for people who are in academics also, because these books basically talks about first-hand experience, practical experience. So when you have a practical experience which is there beside your research lab, then it is beneficial for you to understand the topic well, and these books are highly appreciated. Then we have another book, which is a textbook, a course book, a formal manual of instruction, which is basically based on certain syllabus. These are the books which are used for schools, colleges, and universities. Springer never claimed that they are a textbook publisher, because we don't publish much textbook. But on the contrary, if you see, we publish 13,000 books and we publish 5 to 7% textbooks. And this 5 to 7% is a very big number of textbooks which we publish every year. Now, we are very keen to publish a textbook when it is a textbook for the entire globe, or covering different syllabus of different countries, and especially the in North America, because 40% market of textbook is North America. So it is very important, if you are planning to write a textbook, or you are thinking of writing a textbook, or you are going to try to associate with a senior member to write a textbook, then try to see whether that book is basically fitting the syllabus of different universities worldwide or not. If it is just for a very small university in India, then it is not going to work, because we have to sell that book, and textbooks, they have very high shelf life. If it is written well, then it actually remains in the market for 10 years, 15 years, even more than that. Then we have another type of book which is called reference work. Reference works are basically multi-volume work, where we are talking about fundamentals of the topic, as well as primary, secondary, and tertiary level topics are also included. So we are talking about the complete background of a work. So especially, if you give an example, it's like an encyclopedia. So usually we have multiple volumes in reference works. There is another type of book which is called handbooks. Handbooks are again a type of reference work, but they are always single volume, one volume, usually 1200 to 1500 pages, again talking about the whole subject area. And we have fantastic handbooks in our portfolio in Springer. Around 40 odd handbooks are there. If you go and try to see, there is a handbook on civil engineering, there is a handbook on nano, robotics, optics, and as specialized subject as aroma, like we have on odor, handbooks on odor. So that is also something which is important. So handbooks are very good books if you want to complete study you want to have, and you want to refer that book again and again. These are the books in your subject areas. Then there is another book which is Springer Briefs, which started almost 10 years ago. And this is a type of a book which is a small book, And I always encourage people who are writing for the first time, like young scholar or young faculties, as I said, it is important for you to write a book like this, Springer Briefs, which is a small book, 55 to 125 pages. Copyright remains with you. Soft cover binding, quick turnaround. The moment revision is done, you can submit your manuscript. Once the manuscript is here, turn around quickly. Within 8 weeks, the book is out. So this is a book where you can actually start writing, and you can gain experience how to write a book also, because Springer Briefs, they don't have any format or pattern. It can be a one single chapter of 60 pages. It's a possible, or 5 different chapters of 20 odd pages. So it's completely, but mostly this is an authored book. This type of book we have recently started almost 3 years ago. This is a video book. We call it Springer Nature Video. This is Discovery in Motion, we call it. We started with clinical medicine and computer science. Now we are doing it for management and engineering areas also. If you go to Google and type Springer Nature Video, you will get these videos. Why we started video books is very important, because we have seen the young academicians, they actually love to study from videos. And especially in last 2 years, you must have seen so many faculties, they have opened their video channels on YouTube. So that means people are going to their students and teaching them through videos, and this is a very, very strong media through which you can actually gain knowledge. So what we have created two versions, like 30 minutes video and 45 minutes video. So you can create a 30-minute video, or maybe five chapters of 6 minutes each. And if you want, you can come to the foray, or if you don't want, you can remain at the background and only your presentation can be shown in the video. So there are different type formats are available. So anyone who is interested to write a video book, it's most welcome. This is not a type of a book, but a mode of publication, which is very, very popular right now. Open access books, everyone is talking about open science, and open access is basically a very small part of open science, because we are talking about open data, we are talking about open technology, because we don't want to keep them closed behind the curtain. We want them to be open. That is why open access is gaining so much importance and so much popularity. In the beginning of the year, January, we completed 1,000+ OA books. But I can tell you, in 1 year's time, starting from January to this December, we have almost have another 500 open access books. That means you can imagine how quickly people are writing open access books with us. The reason is very simple. We have open access books have more citations, they have more downloads, and they have more online mentions. So when you have more citations and more mentions, definitely the book is traveling quickly, it is going to the readers, and it is easily available to people who are in a not very financially better off countries, the countries which are struggling to even have the content from big publishing houses. Open access have actually broken all barriers, because people can have access to the content very easily. Now, there is a page which is very, very important, that is OA funding support. Now, if you are planning to write a book open access, then you need funding, because open access is an author pay model, where the author has to pay for publishing the work. Now, when author has to pay, they need some kind of support. So if you go to this page, springernature.com/in/open-research, then you can find 60 to 80 odd different funders who are funding open access books. So you can write to them, you can communicate with them. If they like your project, there will be a possibility that they can actually fund your project or sponsor your work. 1.5 years ago, this website was launched by OAPN. This is oabooks-toolkit.org. So if you really want to know about different models or different type of open access books which are there, like we talk about gold open access, we talk about different types of open access, green open access, bronze open access. Now many places you will get to hear diamond open access. So if you really want to know about them, what exactly they are and how you can contribute, how you can write an open access book, this is a very good website where you can go and you can find those information. Coming to the ethical issues, I said before that this is something which is very close to my heart, because I believe a strong believer of strong ethics, work ethics, and research ethics is the most important thing, which is very, very much required for you. So I hope you all know the term copyright, although I don't want to talk about copyright here. Copyright has a definition and you can very well read that anywhere. The important thing which I would like to highlight on this slide is basically the logo which you can see on your right hand side is COPE, COPE, which is Committee on Publication Ethics. If you haven't heard of COPE, please go to their website and try to see what all things are available there. A lot of data and documents are available about ethical issues. A lot of case studies are available. A lot of information is available in lucid language, where you can go and you can learn about all these ethical aspects of research. So COPE is a body where all good publishers are member of, and we are basically member of this COPE also, Springer Nature. And We closely work with COPE when there is anything unethical is happening anywhere, and we take strict measures also. So please try to go to this website and try to see what all things are available there and read. Now, there's a question on your slide, which is what is the most occurring reason for retraction? Now, before I go into the reasons, I would like to tell you what exactly is retraction. You know, retraction is something which can be taken back. The meaning is taking back. So when we were publishing everything in printed form, in hard copy form, and you were purchasing the books, it was not possible for publishers to go to your house and take back the book in case there is something unethical. But the possibility is there when there is a digital publishing. Something which is available digitally can be retracted, can be removed. So when we were looking at different retraction cases and we looked deeply into their reasons, we found that the first and the most important reason is the honest error. You know, honest error is something which has really, opened our eyes why there is an honest error. There is an honest error because people are committing error without even knowing the policies and the guidelines. So they are committing errors without knowing the rules of the game. Rest of the reasons you can see there is a fabrication and falsification, which is like 28%, which is very high because data is available free. Many things are available over internet and people think everything is available freely, although many things are copyrighted. And because of the copyright violation, there is a fabrication and falsification which people do and they get into the trap. Then there is redundant publication also, which is self-plagiarism. And then there are other reasons. Simultaneous submission. I hope you all know about simultaneous submission. If you don't know, then it is like submitting the same proposal to multiple publishers at the same time. If you are creating a book proposal and you are sending it to multiple people, multiple publishers at the same time, that is unethical. Now you will tell me, I am just sending it to different publishers, I am not publishing it, correct? So why it is unethical? It is unethical because I will tell you, it's a waste of time, effort, and resource. The most important resource, which is the scarcest available resource, which is there, very difficult to get, reviewers. Now all the journals, all the conference committee people, the people who are organizing this conference also, if you ask them what is the most difficult aspect of having a conference, they will tell you to get the papers reviewed. It's not that getting a keynote speaker, it's not to organize, it's not to give any platform to anyone, and it is actually the review which is the most difficult part. Now when you are sending the same proposal to different publishers, what are they doing? They are sending your work to reviewers. So you are basically wasting time, effort, and the resource which is already very difficult to get. So that is why simultaneous submission is something very unethical. So what exactly you have to do? Suppose you have a proposal and you are sending it to any X publisher. If you are not getting any answer from them which is satisfactory, then you can tell them, I want to withdraw my proposal, and you send it to the next Y publisher. Don't send it to XYZ at the same time. You all must be aware of this term, plagiarism. Plagiarism is a very hard term. If you tell someone that your work is plagiarized, people get really, really offended, because plagiarism means stealing someone else's work. So in our industry, people are smart, they don't talk about plagiarism anymore. They say similarity, they say overlapping, and all these words are not derogatory. So people take it with pride. Okay, what is the problem? My work is little similar to someone else's, so I will change it. But make a note, there is something called fair use, and fair use is something where you can find the data on Association of Research Libraries 2012 document, and also on Google. If you type what is the fair use, you will get a lot of data. Fair use means you can use some copyrighted material without permission. But my suggestions to you is always take permission from the publisher or from the author and then use it. Now, how are we get alerted to plagiarism? How we get to know about plagiarism as publisher? There are three different ways. First is the original author comes to us. Sometimes original author gets to know, oh, my work has been plagiarized or stolen by someone else and already published in some other journal or some other book. So this is how we get to know. Sometimes from the reviewers. Reviewers also tell us, sometimes, but very seldom. They are there to check the quality of the content, not the similarity of the content. And then we get to know about from whistleblowers also. As a reader, you get, you might get two different papers and or two different chapters which are like similar, written by different people. So immediately, you tell us, okay sir, this is something which is wrong and this is something which is a plagiarism. We all know there is a tool, and this tool helps in plagiarism, but it cannot identify plagiarism. This is something which you needs to understand. I talk to many conference organizers, many people at a different level, and tell them, that if you are running a tool that is not going to identify plagiarism, they will just give you certain numbers, and these are nothing but similarity numbers. That means you are actually running the paper through a tool, and it is throwing you some numbers. Now, are these numbers telling you whether the paper is plagiarized or not? No. A human eye or a subject expert is needed, where he can actually look at those numbers, tally those numbers, and look at the content, and then decide why there is a plagiarism and whether there is a plagiarism or not. I will tell you in more detail just after 2 slides. This is like plagiarism checking tool. This is Authenticate, which we use in our company. So this is the screenshot. This is the inside story of Authenticate, where you can see all the chapters are there and your different numbers are written over there: 11, 14, 34. These are again basically the similarity percentages of the paper. This is a view of the software where you can see, the report itself. The report says 93% similarity index. 93% means definitely this work is plagiarized, and all these colors are not helpful at all, because these colors are showing that paper has been taken from different sources. The content is copied from different sources. But if I want to give you some tips, which I said, basically, if you are only using the tool cannot detect all problems. You need a human eye or a subject expert to do that. Why I am saying this? Because a low similarity score does not mean there is no plagiarism. Suppose I give you an example. There are two chapters, X and Y. I run both the chapters through this tool. Whether it is Authenticate, Turnitin, whatever tool it is. Now, X gives you 30% similarity and Y gives you 10% similarity. So on the surface, if you see, X is basically 30%, that means more plagiarized, and Y is 10%, that means less plagiarized. But if I go deep into it and I see, okay, this 30% is 1% each from different places, because it's just a similarity, content similar to already available content. And this 10% is a direct lift or completely taken from someone else's method or someone else's result. So immediately we can see this 10% is more dangerous than this 30%. So when someone comes to me and asks what is the limit and how to look at it, because setting a standard is very difficult. So what we say, if you run a paper through this tool and you get less than 20% similarity, then you can just take a look at the paper, and if it is not a single source of 10%, then you can send it to the reviewer. If it is between 20 to 35, send it back to the author and ask them to revise. If it is more than 35, straight away reject it, because more than 35% means there is a lot of work is already been published, which has been copied in this particular chapter or paper. Another important thing is only publications by participating publishers or societies are getting checked. That means what? That means when you are running this particular paper or chapter in the tool, it is getting compared, it is getting checked with the cross-check database. This cross-check database is the database prepared by Authenticate, Turnitin, and all these people. So the data which is available over internet, that is the data which is available on cross-check database as well as in a digital form, can be cross-checked only. Data which is available in printed form, suppose a book is in printed form, that cannot be checked via tool. So it is very difficult if there's something is available in printed form and someone has copied from there. Common phrases are not excluded. Like, common phrases means what? There are descriptions, there are definitions, there are algorithms which are used in a paper, again taken by another paper. So it is showing similarity. But this is important for your paper. So who is going to take a call? The evaluator, the reader, or the person expert who is going to check your paper will be taking a call. Okay, this is not plagiarism. This is something, a common phrase which has been used in the paper. Sometimes you take permission, but tool is not aware that you have taken permission, correct? So again, it will highlight, but at the same time, the expert can see, okay, the permission has already been taken and this is not plagiarism. Then there is patchwork plagiarism. This is very difficult to find. People do it sometimes. They take someone else's work in patches from different works and create a research thing. So this is also something you should be uh, keeping yourself away from, and you are not get indulged into this patchwork plagiarism and all. Self-plagiarism, as I said, self-plagiarism is the reason for honest error. This is a problem where you get caught into a trap where you have already published something and you want to recreate or republish that thing in another form. That means you are actually, putting the same content again. Don't do that. Refer that content. Cite that content in your paper if you have already published something. So don't do self-plagiarism. Then there is fabrication and falsification. As I said, data is available on internet, so people do fabricate and falsify, and this is something very, very unethical. So general advice to you is verbatim copying. That means completely copying as is not right. Put things into quotation marks. Give original author always. If an author is not sure about the length, if you are asking an author for a copyright permission and the person is not aware, please try to contact the publisher because they know what exactly is the correct thing. And if you are reusing any figure or table from your own paper or someone else's paper, always take permission and then only use it. Taking permission in digital publishing is not difficult at all. I will show you. This is a chapter which was published in Springer. So when you go to the home page of the chapter, at the end below the page, you will find about this chapter, which is giving you all the details about the chapter. Now there you will find a button which is reprints and permissions. If you go to reprints and permissions, you will be taken to a different page, which is rights link page. You have to answer certain questions over there, how you are going to use this work, why you want the copyright back in your name. So you have to answer certain questions. If you are using it from your own paper or your own chapter or your own work, you don't have to pay. Sometimes if you are using someone else's work, you have to pay, and then you will be given back the copyright so that you have the permission to reuse it. So always take permission before using the content which is already been published, whether it is published by you in some form or whether it is published by someone else. Coming to the last section, quickly I will talk about some author services and publishing tools which you can use in your regular activities also. To start with, I will tell you how to contact any Springer editor. This is something we get to hear many times, that how to reach an editor. Now we operate in different countries, but fortunately you can contact anyone because we have the liberty to work anywhere in the world. So what exactly you have to do, you have to go to our website springer.com and go to the link subjects. If you go to the link subject, you can see all these subjects which you can see on the slide are available. If you want to go to computer science, straight away go to computer science. A page will open on computer science and it will talk about the books and journals and the contact details. So if you go to the next page, you will see the contact details on computer science. If you go to that page, then you will see the names of editors who are dealing in journals, who are dealing in books, who are dealing in conference proceedings and all. If you want to go to engineering, similarly, you can go to engineering page and you can find the contacts. You can go to the contacts link. So it's very easy. And if you, by any mistake, you have gone to a different page and written to a person over there, I think that person will help you to go to the correct editor. This is a very nice tool, which is called Reviewer Finder. Reviewer Finder is something which will help you to find a reviewer. Nowadays when you submit your paper in a journal, they ask for reviewers. Mandatorily they ask for reviewers so that you can send the name of some reviewers. Similarly, it is happening in case you are sending it a book proposal. They are not going to send your paper to those reviewers. It's basically creating the reviewer panel. That is what they are doing. They are creating a database. They will send it to a different reviewer, not your reviewer, but at the same time we get the names. So from Reviewer Finder, you can find people who are in your area, who are working in your area. This will also help you to get some names, people who are directly working in your area, and you can network with them also. It's not only a reviewer finder, it can be used as a collaborator finder also. So when you try to network with people, you collaborate with people, you can find them over particular. This page is basically author and reviewer tutorials. A lot of data, a lot of reading material is available. The most important thing is basically you have to really read. You have to read the content in your area. You have to read the literature in your area. You have to read interdisciplinary also. And at the same time, you have to read a lot of data and a lot of content which are available on different platforms. Reading helps you to write well. Reading helps you to think well. Reading helps you in your critical thinking, in your analytical thinking, in your building of writing quality. So when you read more, you really write well. So these are the areas, these are the pages which I am showing you, where you will get a lot of information, a lot of videos, a lot of guidelines which you can read and which you can understand in your own ways. These are the materials which you can refer again and again. It's not that something which you have to read at once. You can go back and you can actually refer to them. There is another tool which is called SharedIt. We are very proud of this tool. We started this tool almost 3 years back with journals. Now we are doing it with for our conference proceeding papers also. So when you publish a paper, a conference paper or a journal paper with Springer, what exactly you are doing, the paper gets published, it is appearing on a home page. You will get a link which is called SharedIt link from the production team. If you have done that and you have not received it, you can go to the home page of the journal and see post publication contact person and write to them, please send a SharedIt link of my paper or my conference paper. What is happening with SharedIt? With SharedIt, you can share your complete paper. Like in digital world, there are certain limitations. Now if I want to download something, if I go with to some paper, I can only see the abstract and the title and the name of authors. I cannot see the whole paper because my university or my library has not subscribed it. So I can only see abstract. But with SharedIt, it's possible that you can actually share your work with anyone. They can read the whole thing. With SharedIt, it also works in a reverse way. If you are not able to download the whole paper, you can write to the corresponding author of the paper, please share the work with me. So they can share the work with you and you can get access to the whole paper. You cannot print it or you cannot download it, but you can read the whole thing online. You can annotate it. So this is a legal way of sharing your work or get something shared with you by someone else. ORCID ID. ORCID IDs, I always say these are like Aadhaar card for all the researchers. This is like a recognition of your self. It gives you recognition. It gives a unique ID to you because people have common names, and with common names, papers get lost and they get cited wrongly at times. So if you are giving your ORCID ID, which is becoming mandatory now for many journals, many proceedings, many books, that you have to give your ORCID ID. So if you don't have an ORCID ID, please go and register yourself, get this free ID and use this ID whenever you are publishing anything. This page is talking about policies. If you go to this page, you will be led to another page like this: publishing policies, editorial policies, research data policies, and open access publication policies. It is very important for you to understand research data policies also, because you must be using different data in your work. And these policies are again important. Go and read them. They will give you a lot of information. Then we have a blog which is called The Source. The Source is a blog which our again author support team is basically working on it and day and night, where you can write your own blog, or you can get access to many blogs written by many academicians and a lot of data about career, a lot of things about different aspects. So this is again a fantastic source for reading and getting information. There are 4 books I always mention as a reference. The first one you can see on your slide, How to Write and Publish a Scientific Paper. This is 8th edition cover. 9th is already out. This is written by Barbara Gastel and Robert A. Day. Robert A. Day is considered as father of scientific writing because he is the person who traveled to different universities across US for 25 years and telling people how to write and publish scientific paper. Now, this book is a book which should be there on your desk for all researchers, because this will help you to understand different aspects of scientific writing, what all different types of papers are there. So this gives this a very rich book, and I think this is something always a good read for the first time, and always you can refer it back. There is another book like this which is written by William Germano, which is Getting It Published, which of publishing, and this is again a fantastic read and a book which can be referred again and again for different nuances and the different terminologies which are used in publishing world. 2 books. First is Textbook of Research Ethics, which is written by Sana Lu. This is also accepted as a textbook in many universities. So this is a very, very good read. If you haven't read this book, haven't heard about it, now you can go and you can download or you can purchase it, and you can keep it with yourself. A fantastic book about research ethics. The other book which is Engineering Research Methodology. This is written by Dipankar Dev, Rajiv De, and Valentina. This was published almost three and a half years ago, and this is again talking about nicely about the methodologies which are involved in research. This is this is something I would like to highlight because I think you all know about SDG goals, which were formulated by United Nations in 2015, and we have a target till 2030. And these goals are very important with 169 different targets, although we are way behind our target achievements. And recently we had COP26 about climate action. All the leaders of different countries were there and they discussed. So SDG is a great area right now to work and contribute. So if you are working anything on energy, anything on climate, anything on poverty, anything related to SDGs, please publish. There is a report which is available. If you go to this page, springernature.com/sustainable business, this report, The Power of Knowledge, is there. You can download this report. It's free, available. Then you can read this report and you can actually see where all you can also give your contribution and how you can support different research activities in your domain, in your area, via SDG. Before I conclude my presentation today, I would like to highlight a couple of series which we have recently launched in last 2 years or so. These are different book series which I work with, and these are the series where if you have any proposal, any book proposal, you can submit it. There is a very specific area like nature inspired computing, rhythm engineering. Then we have a very broad area of business process reengineering also. The more books on algorithms for intelligent systems. This is really doing well. Then we have a book on sustainability, science and technology, covering a lot of area of energy and a lot of area of different sustainable SDG areas. Then we have again a very specific area of human-centered computing. Then a couple of series on autonomic, data-driven and industrial computing. Then we have studies in infrastructure and control. And very recently, we have just launched, we haven't had any book till now. This is again a very broad area, data-intensive research. So if you are working closely to any data and you are planning a book, you can definitely participate and you can send the proposal to me. So before I say thank you to you for giving me this opportunity and listening to me, I always give this suggestion that work sincerely, focus on quality. If you are working on quality work you are doing, nobody can stop you. Say no to academic corruption. There are many facts about corruption in academics also. Stay away from them, stay happy and do well. If you have any questions today, I will be able to answer them. I will be happy to address them. If you do not have it right now, and if you are going back using this different tools and different pages and all read, and you have any question, you can write to me on anindo.bose@springernature.com. I will be very happy to address them later also. I will write to you. And if you have any queries right now, you are free to ask me. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. First of all, I request the authors, if anybody is having any query, do not hesitate. This is a wonderful platform, and Aninda sir is very open to answer your queries, especially, to the young researchers. If you are having any doubt, you need any clarification, you might have seen certain rejections. So if you are having any query related to that, you can ask.
Please. See, as I said before, I am very sad that we are doing everything online. I love to go to conferences. I love to meet people. I love to meet authors. I love those coffee breaks and sessions where I can really communicate with you, because you have a lot of questions in your mind and they are always remain unanswered. About indexing, about Scopus, about conferences, about different types of books. But these are the places where you can ask questions, and questions are never stupid, only answers are. So I am going to answer them. They can be stupid. Questions are never stupid. So you can ask anything.
Please,
Good afternoon, sir. I'm Dr. Sonal Yadav from NIT Raipur.
Hello, ma'am.
Actually, you have correctly pointed out that we have so many questions always, but we don't get the platform to get the answer.
Yes, ma'am.
So just one question that is actually I'm facing from last 6 months. Actually, I want to write an edited book, and I want to know actually in what way I should proceed. First, I have to take the approval from Springer for call for book chapter, or first I will collect the chapters from authors and submit them to the Springer for approval.
Yes, ma'am. Dr. Yadav, this is a very good question, which I said briefly in my talk. It is important that edited books are like you have to approach the publisher when you have certain already data available with you. And how you are supposed to do that, suppose you have a theme or an idea on which you want to write a book, you create a table of contents for that, a draft table of contents, create it, and then you approach people in your community, people who you are working with, networking with, anyone who is in your area. When you write to 100 odd people, then there is a possibility that 25 to 30 people will reply to you. No, it is always that bad. If only 25% people they reply, not more than that. So when you write to 100 odd people that I am planning a book like this and I want to give it to a good publisher, and this is the theme of the book, these are the topics, and are you ready to contribute anything? If they are interested to contribute, then you ask them to send the title and abstract of that paper. So you create a proposal with, suppose you have 12 papers. Now 12 book chapters. Now 12 book chapters with 12 abstracts you have ready with you, with the about the book ready, synopsis is ready. Now you approach the publisher. So the publisher as well as the reviewers who are going to evaluate your work, they will be able to see the content well. They will be able to understand.
Sir, I think you are going to mute it. Sir, you are muted.
Sir, your voice is not coming. I think you are
Muted.
I'm muted from very beginning or muted from now?
From middle.
Okay. Ma'am, I would say again that first what you have to do, you have to talk to people in your community, in your network. And then after talking to them, you tell them about the theme, you tell them about the structure of the book and the topics which you want to cover. If they are interested, then you ask them to submit a title and abstract for the chapter. When you have these things ready with you about the book, topics in the book, draft table of contents, and all these title and abstracts, then you approach the publisher. Then the publisher as well as people will be able to understand your work, what exactly you want to put in a form of a book. And then only the marketing team, coordination team, reviewers will be able to help you. Otherwise, what will happen? No publisher will give you immediate approval just by looking at the theme or title or the proposal without the content. When you are planning to write an authored book, then you can send the sample chapters. But edited book, sample chapters are not possible because you are not authoring them. Someone else will write them. So you try to get the title and abstract of the book.
But sir, I have one concern
Yes,
that without any affiliation, if we go for call for book chapter, then I think the quality of chapters will be not as good. Like
no,
if we
see, that is why I said, editing a book is something which is always for people who have 15 years of experience and the credibility in the industry. When you are working for 15 years, you don't have only experience of 15 years, you also have networking of 15 years. When you have networking of 15 years, that means 1,500 people in your community who are actively working in that area globally as well as, domestically. Then you approach people. See, if you have a very restricted community, then there is a problem. And that is what the problem is when young scholars or young faculties, they want to write an edited book. They are approaching people with call for chapters. Suddenly you have 150 chapters available, but they are actually not book chapters. They are just papers, So as an editor, you are not also able to identify whether it's a book chapter, whether it's just a paper, or whether it should be good enough for the content. So that thing you have to like I can give you another example, like original paper and review paper. When you start writing a paper, you write original papers. You don't write review papers immediately. You write review papers when you have 10 years of experience in your field, then only you will be able to write a good review of another paper. And we always try to get review papers and invited papers in our journals from senior people who can review the content very well. Similarly, the approach is for edited books also. That is why I said write swinger briefs, write small monographs, where you will get the opportunity to write, understand, multiple reviews will be done. So you will gain that experience. Then only you can go into the field of editing.
Thank you, sir. And sir, one last question.
Yes,
can we mention the name of the Springer that during the call for book chapter, like these chapters shall be published in the Springer and like
yeah,
that?
you can mention there that I will approach Springer, or I will approach this X and XYZ publisher, and I am planning for that. So I am collecting content. When I will have all content with me, I will go to them and you take a tentative time from them. See, there has to be a time frame, because once they submit the chapters also, you have to give a lot of time to editing them. So you need to have that credibility of editing also. At the same time, you need time. So edited books, it takes time to get. That is why I always say journal articles are a fast moving product. It's like FMCG. But books are more close to you. Books are more close to your heart. When you have a book in your hand which is published as an author or as an editor, you cherish it for 5 years. Anytime you look at your cupboard and you see, oh, this is my book. So that is what you don't do with journal articles, because once you complete an article, you go to the next stage. You have another article you have to publish, and you have to move your research on. That is why I said textbooks have 20 years of shelf life. When you write a textbook, then you plan, okay, this textbook is suitable for these many universities, these many syllabuses. So people will again and again come back. It's not like that you publish a book with us and immediately it will become a hit. Scholarly books are not like that. If there is a download of 10,000 books, and there is 300 books are printed books are sold, that means it's a huge thing. It is not a fiction that 10,000 copies will be sold, because you are writing it for a very niche community, and that niche community has to come and read your content. So that is also very important.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for clarifying my doubts.
You're welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Anybody else is having any query? Because I think Dr. Hopi is having some query.
Whenever I have needed your support, you have given. And सर, आपका टाइम जो है हम लोगों के लिए, कि जब भी हमने आपका बुलाया है, आप सर पहले ही पहले आप आ गए हो, तो सर थैंक यू।
मैंने हमेशा अपना कंधा बंदूक चलाने के लिए दिया ही लोगों को।
सर अनडाउटली हमने यूज भी किया है। तो
But I feel very honored, when I get to work with people who are dedicated. I really feel that I am also working with them, and we are all working together for our community, for the success.
Sir, my question is sir, nowadays I have seen 15 days back somebody says कि Scopus का impact factor कुछ आया है, तो कुछ ऐसा है क्या?
नहीं, Scopus का कोई impact factor नहीं होता है, but Scopus have something called site score.
Yes. तो सर ये डाउट पहले था मुझे भी, ये ठीक है। सेकेंड थिंग है सर कि पैलेगिज्म का जो इशू है, वो कितना लीगल एक्शन को वो हम लोग उसको बियर कर सकते हैं, कितने एक्सटेंट तक उसको ले जा सकते हैं?
See, plagiarism is something which I always say stay away from it, but plagiarism is always there. This is a part of the academic world, sadly, that people do plagiarize, and immediately you cannot take any legal action for plagiarism as such. The only action which can be taken by publisher is retraction of the work. That is the most thing which we can do, or we can inform the institution.
But especially for the PhD scholars, especially for let's say somebody is going to submit his PhD and he has copied the result from the different place. So how can we can handle such type of plagiarism issues?
See, that depends on the policies of the institution also. That is very, very important, that the guidelines and I think these policies should be shared upfront with the students also.
Okay.
It's not that the policies or guidelines should be kept for only for taking legal actions. We have to upfront tell the students why the plagiarism is an issue and why we have these policies, and why you will be penalized in case there is something like this. So they should be aware. That is why I said reading is very important. Not only the reading of your content and reading in your area. Now you have to do a lot of reading which is interdisciplinary, and you have to do a lot of reading which is like policies and guidelines. Because when you're playing with data, then your responsibility is very, very high. And we have so many GDPR rules, which all European Union and US institutions, they follow. Now in India, you will find people are hardly following all these GDPR rules. People are sending these call for chapters to anyone on any platform. People are writing mails to people. Now, if you are writing random mails to European academicians for SOCTA, they will come back to Springer. What exactly these guys are doing? This is against the GDPR laws. We don't want to get mails from them. So it is also important that we also should know the policies and guidelines well, and we communicate well with the students, and we communicate with well with the faculties.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Sir, I have one thing.
Please.
First of all, thank you, Aninda sir. Thank you very much. आपने अपना प्रीसियस टाइम हमको दिया. एंड रिसेंटली तरुण सर ने बताया कि टुडे यू हैव 4 invitations.
Yeah, that all from Jaipur.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So and you have accepted our invitation, and the whatever region from your bonding, whatever the bonding between you and the Tarun sir, it is very amazing, and we appreciate your effort, your commitment, your punctuality, sir. We are very, very honored that you are with us and you have given us time. And in between the month, in the year between, when our AISC series is not in the Scopus.
Yeah.
And your commitment was the fabulous. And Tarun told me, Anand, go ahead. Don't bother about the Scopus series. The Aninda Bose sir has committed us. So we are literally very, very honored, sir. Your commitment towards your work, towards us. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate the work all these researchers are doing. It's not easy, it's really hard work people are putting in. And publishing also is very difficult nowadays. If you see, people are talking about, 1 year time just in the in review and all. Just imagine a research scholar who has, worked so hard and they are trying to publish a paper. First time, that is a different kind of excitement and all. And then
Sir, you are muted.
Sir, mute ho gaya.
Yeah, so it's basically I said when research scholars are working so hard, and every day in day out, and they want to publish a paper, that is the first thing they want to do, reaching their community, and these indexing things and all these are part and parcel of the job, but definitely they are needed. So if I can help any community in a way which is helpful for them, I really love to do that.
Thank you so much, sir, especially motivating me and, banking on me. Definitely, I will keep your trust and work hard to make this series, more attractive for the researchers. And we
capital Q in quality in exactly. Everything. That is what is required.
Exactly, sir. We kept you, engaged almost half a day because you are with us since morning. So I'm having number of questions definitely, but I will visit you personally and will ask my personal questions because we are planning to have a book series on SOCTA. We are working on that, and we just submit a proposal to you for initial evaluation. We will modify it and submit it again. And we are really thankful, and every day we learn something from you. It's always amazing to hear you, and hopefully looking forward to have a physical interaction soon, as well as, this is, again, I am requesting you for the Himachal Pradesh University Shimla to be a keynote address.
There is one question over here from Chetan Bulla. Before I say goodbye to all, I just, it says it is essential to remove self-plagiarism. If yes, what percentage is allowed? The best thing is 0%. So if you whenever you run your paper, it should be 0%. But unfortunately, that is not possible because digital content is available everywhere, and digitally they get compared, and the paper, they pick certain percentages. But my suggestion to self plagiarism is always whenever you have published something somewhere, then don't try to use the same thing over there. If you are using the same method also, then you cite that, rather than copying the whole thing. If you just write couple of lines about it and you cite in reference, that will help. So stay away from that plagiarism thing as far as possible.
Thank you, sir. Looking forward to have more associations in the near future. And I again request to the authors, at 2 we will be having the next key talk by Dr. Mir Jalali. Stay tuned. Still 42 minutes are there. Okay, just come back, because the speaker has spared the time, the quality time. There is a time difference between Australia and India. So please, gather again at 2 sharp. We will be starting at sharp 2. Thank you, Aninda sir, and see you soon at Delhi.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
And author, the meeting link is different. Is given in the schedule, which is sent to you or available in the website. Okay.
Sir, namaskar. बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद sir आपका.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
everyone. Thank you.
Bye, sir. Bye, sir.